All right. The next one I want to do is a little bit a twofer. We mentioned this a second ago, this next topic, right? You talked about game length, Metal Gear Solid. This is, again, a big thing right now with The Order, 1886. I don't know if you've heard of this game.
I've heard of it.
Okay, good. It's a
PlayStation.
PlayStation.
It's beautiful.
It's very beautiful. Not incredibly long. Not as short as some were saying. If you want to speedrun it and do it, blah, blah, blah. When you're making a game as a developer, is that what you're thinking? Where's your headspace at in terms of the end experience, how long it's going to be? Are you just making a story? Are you making gameplay? What are you doing? What the hell are you doing over there?
Awesome question. I've never heard this kind of come up in the press or on podcasts and stuff like that, is how developers gauge playtime.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. And you should ask smarter people than me and who have more experience. But from the past few games that I've shipped, you kind of have this general sense. You kind of like this really rough target, and you think, oh yeah, for Halo 4, for example, I think we're talking about 10 missions. I don't know how many they shipped with, maybe 8, I want to say.
That sounds about right. I vaguely remember that.
And because you factor an hour a mission, and it's about it's a little bit over 10 hours, we should be fine. It's just really rough math, man.
Yeah,
put on the back of a napkin.
Well, there's no way to say that what Colin, this expert gamer, who's grown up on Mega Man, knows all this stuff, how long he's going to play getting every collectible versus someone who's just picking it up and playing it on the weekend every so often, not even aware, versus the guy who wants to beat it on night one and is just steamrolling, right? It's always such a weird question.
It is. And so for one of the things I've learned, and I think a lot of developers would agree, is that, and this doesn't play to the strengths of The Order, but games actually take a lot longer for people to play than I think developers first expect. And I've always found that to be the case. You think, they're going to be able to finish this in 2 hours. You put it in front of somebody, average time 3 hours and a half or 3.5 hours or something like that. So that was one thing that I've really learned. So maybe even the Order guys were going oh man, we're shipping a 3-hour game, and
6, all right, not bad.
They're like, oh yeah. The other weird thing, this gets more on the publisher side of things, I think, but the unfortunate thing about Alien Isolation, for example, where it seems like they might have padded it,
too long,
right? Because they're worried about lack of value, and sometimes too much is a bad thing,
right?
So
that was the concern with The Order, right? Leading up to when they were talking about it's longer than people are saying it is, but we jump around a lot. We want you to feel different, right? We want every gun to feel different. We want every scenario to be different. Every time you pick it up, we want you to be doing something different so there isn't repetition.
Right.
And then it was now there's no flow to the game. There's no pacing to the game. And what does that matter? When then Alien Isolation, it's just first 8 hours are great and then there's more. Why are we still going into this?
Right. And true or false, if The Order was just an amazing, incredible, unbelievable 6 hours, 7 hours, we wouldn't be having this conversation. People would be saying, oh, this is how games should be. I like a 6 or 7 hour, really, really, really top-notch AAA experience. And maybe that's not what the game is, right?
No, I mean, not to me. I mean, that was the thing I've been talking about when we played The Order, and all these things started. We had The Order early, and so a lot of these things started breaking. We couldn't talk about it, and one of the things that was frustrating us was I don't think the game's good at all. I just think that the length is not the problem. In fact, the length, if the game was longer, it might have been worse. And I think that was the thing that people were ignoring was what is this subjective notion of value, and what does that mean? And I wrote, I still write a piece a week for IGN, just op-eds or whatever, and the topic I picked up this week was why game length, this argument of game length is weird, because Journey is not one of my favorite games of all time, but Journey was the most resonant, emotional game I had ever played, and I beat it in 90 minutes, and I was crying at the end, and I have no idea why. And I told Greg, I'm never playing that game again. I deleted it off my hard drive because I'm that 90 minutes was precious. I would pay hundreds of dollars to get 90 minutes like that again out of a game.
Yeah.
And so that is my subjective equation for value is what does the game do and what does the game mean? Unfinished Swan is another really good example of that. These games that are short but awesome, as opposed to, people forget when they're Final Fantasy VI took 60 hours or 70 hours to beat. And I'm yeah, but Final Fantasy VI is able to take advantage of the conventions of the JRPG genre, which no other genre does, which is they can just pad it however they want.
Here's another dungeon.
Yeah, well, it's not even dungeons as much as it's grinding. Theoretically, you should be able to blaze through a game like Final Fantasy VI in 10 hours if you want to, except for the fact that you have to level your characters up and be thoughtful and persistent in leveling your characters up, making them stronger and stuff like that. That is how they make a 10-hour game a 70-hour game. And so people are ignoring all of these tricks of the trade, as it were, that are fine. That's what an RPG is, and that's why I like them. But, so this argument about The Order was weird to me in the sense that, well, you're right. If it was 6 really excellent hours, Uncharted 2 and 3 especially, I think, are 10, 12 hours, and they're fucking awesome. And they don't need to be longer, and I hope that they aren't shorter. And and that's good. But not every game needs to be that long. And I think people need to like shake this notion of $60, 10 hours, $60, 20 hours, $60. It's like, why can't a 5-hour game be $60? No, not saying that that's right or wrong. I'm just saying like you could get 5 powerful hours for $60. So I think that people are losing sight of that.
Yeah. Again, I think if it was an awesome game, I think people would be putting this thing up on a pedestal that maybe this is the future of games.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe the game should have been $40. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's more of a question of. Yeah. The game was in development for a long time at a AAA studio. Maybe that's more of a question of the publisher and not wanting to explore this middle ground that could exist for even retail products. But Jim Sterling, actually, Jim fucking Sterling's son said he did a piece on Jimquisition where he was saying that he's like, publishers are afraid of exploring this middle ground because they're afraid of being tagged as a budget game.
Yep, that's absolutely true.
And that has like a bad aura and mystique about it. It's just not no bueno. They don't want that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I bet they run the numbers too. They're like, oh yeah, what happens? Focus groups if we sell the order for $39.99. Less people buy it. There's a perception of lower quality.
Bin.
Right?
Yeah.
I bet there's something to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. This particular argument just gets me in the same way that the indie and downloadable space kind of argument gets me, where it's like games that aren't $60 don't have value, and games that aren't 20 hours don't have value. And I'm like, what? Why do you have such a narrow view?
Colin, you got to spend more time on the App Store. Then you get into this weird, really dark space where you'll never win. It's you make a game that's. I have a friend who put a pretty good game out there for $1.99.
Yeah.
And people are bitching and moaning. It's 2 hours long, and like, I can't believe you're charging for this. It's 2 hours. Like, you want it for free, and then you start doing the whole analogy or the comparison of like, this is like less than half of a cup price of a cup of coffee. When you get into that realm, you've lost because there's no logic will prevail. It's a dark place out there, guys.
I forget what was Republic when it came out.
$4.99.
Yeah,
and people complain like crazy.
Yeah.
And it was an hour and a half, 2 hour first episode. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
No.
It's all. I mean, that's
replayable and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the whole, and you can. I mean, it's kind of segueing out of the specific argument of game length or how long is, but like this whole argument also just of value outside of length. About we talked about it a little bit before about. And we have some great viewers who are saying like that they would prefer to buy your game as opposed to getting a code from you when we were giving them away on Colin and Greg Live because awesome. And it is great because there are people and I don't want to say we're educating people because it's up to them whether or not they know. They know intrinsically that it's true, but these things cost money to make and they're going to cost money to play. And if you just start, I really feel like some of it is developers' fault for like the iOS store, like the App Store is a fucking disaster. And like they all did it to themselves, like by undercutting each other.
Yeah, they did, but because they felt like they had to. And what really needed to happen was that the guys who run those stores, whether it's Google Play or App Store or whatever, I think they could have done a better job of at least holding back some of like this, like the free to play, phenomenon for taking over. Because I think what we end up having now is just a bunch of crap and a bunch of manipulation that goes on now.
Sure.
You have to build all this manipulation to kind of trick people or make them feel guilty or do whatever to get money out of them. It's a really bad way to I don't know, like to interact with consumers to the limited degree you even have interaction with on the App Store, which is a whole other problem. But we still embrace it, and I have actually really good feelings about the long-term viability of our game on the App Store because there's 1 billion iOS devices out there, 1 billion, and getting the game in front of even like a small like point percentage of that is a great opportunity,
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I love to talk to different developers that have experience on the iOS store and just on iOS and Android, just in the sense of how their game succeeded or did, and how people like we were talking about with Drinkbox actually just go to Vita with 14 million of them or whatever there are out there because they're like it's just easier, the free to play thing is all interesting. I mean, we talk about Plants vs Zombies 2, which I was really excited about. It's the last time I ever played a game on my iPad because I usually just use it to read, and they gave it to me. They gave it for free. And then it's just like it constantly nickels and dimes you in the app. And I'm like, dudes, like I would have given you $20 if you just left me alone. And now since you're bothering me, I'm not gonna give you shit. Yep. That's the whole
now I'm not even gonna play your game.
Yeah, like I'll just like it's like grind this out or pay us $2. And I'm like, I'm just gonna grind it out because I resent you asking me for this when I would have just given it to you up front and you just like not talk to me, or give me the option and just like the leave me alone button.
Yeah.
It's just really unfortunate. Yeah, with the way that I think consumers have been trained and. The consumers that will pay 6 figures into some of these iOS games if you let them, they will.
Yeah.
And
well, that's the same thing with Patreon, right? Like, it's like you have these people who will support you and try, you know what I mean? Like that, and like Colin just wants to give this developer money, right? But then they get in this way and they screw it up. And the people who will, you get nickel and dime, you get addicted, maybe you go the wrong way with the money, right? And then you have things where if you have a way, like the people in the Twitch chat today who like, well, if I get a code, I still want to buy it gift it to somebody on Steam. I want to make sure they're supporting.
That's awesome.
You.
Yeah.
That's where you hope the good wins out, right?
And we actually see a positive sign. I think it's because of our kind of console pedigree and the audience that buys our game, at least on iOS, is we have a season pass, just like the Telltale games have a season pass on iOS, which is $15. It pre-purchases all the future episodes at a discount. And what we actually found was that there's more people that have purchased the season pass than who have finished episode 1. That's strange, right? And what we talking to the Telltale guys, they basically say that doesn't surprise them that a lot of people want to support your game, or they're buying it in advance because they want to wait until episode 5 comes out. But that just showed a lot of goodwill, at least for us. Like, and more people, way more people, this shouldn't surprise you, but the guys who buy the game at premium, if they buy it at $4.99, are more likely to buy the season pass than are the ones that get the game for free if they get it as part of a free promotion. That obviously makes a lot of sense, but it's because these people, that's our target audience, is that we want to cultivate the people that are willing to pay for quality. And a very smart person, way smarter than me, had told me, he's in a consulting firm, told me, Ryan, you can't think of all consumers as the same. You have to focus on who your consumer is. You have to have your target consumer. And I was like, yeah, I'm an idiot. Like, of course, yeah, that's right. And he's like, your target consumer is not the ones that are trying to get 99-cent cheeseburgers. They want to sit down at a restaurant and eat like a $10 cheeseburger or whatever, and that's fine. They go after those guys.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And,
that's a great point.
Yeah.
That's why it's going to be successful on Steam.
I should have said steak, because all developers want their games to be steak.
Exactly, steak, filet mignon. I think this game, I mean, the reaction was good when we showed on Colin Greg Live. I think again that this will be big on Steam, and I think when it comes to console, it'll be big there too.
It speaks to the console, the hardcore.
Yeah,
gamer.
you started
I hate doing that, but
it's funny because you started at a place you thought you should be and probably needed to be in the iOS market, but the place that was most unintuitive for a development studio like you to be.
Right.
And I think that what's so cool about that is now, I don't want to say the hard work's over, because the hard work's never over for a studio like yours, and you guys are still working on the game and stuff. But maybe that the trials and tribulations are over. Like if you get,
I like to think so.
If you go to Xbox One, for instance, there's got to be some confidence that you're like, well,
these people will get it.
Yeah,
these people will get it. Yeah, and shipping this huge game with all the memory constraints and all the things we're learning about iOS and pushing iOS in areas that they've never been pushed before, outside of maybe Infinity Blade and a couple other things. So you're right. Yeah, we took the hard path, and that's kind of like what I want to do with my life anyway. So hopefully it'll pay off.
You want to be challenged.
I want to be challenged. I want the Dark Souls path of life. I'm not playing some game that's like constantly throwing achievements at me. I want to earn those babies.
Damn right. I like that. Get a new 401k. Republic Remastered, out right now. If you're hearing this, go get it.
PC and Mac, Humble Store, GOG. That's not Greg.
No, it's not Game Over Greg.
Game Over Greg. And Steam. So thank you so much for
PlayStation
supporting
soon.
it.
No problem. Our pleasure.